on this week's episode of Momentum on the Peachtree Corners Network. And today I have a great guest here to talk to you. I have Mr. Rico Figliolini.
Hey, Alyssa,
welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about who you are and how long you've been in the Peachtree Corners area.
Oh, my goodness. I've been here since '95. Moved my whole family down, wife, baby, and in-laws, and from New York. And creative director for a group of newspapers. I also have some clients I do freelance work on, social media marketing and content work. It's fun. I've been involved in this community for a long time.
Okay, so you're pretty involved in the community, you know all about social media, so this is going to just help me dive right into this conversation that we're having today. So we're talking about, you know, public entities like, you know, governments and politicians and those sort of people being involved with social media. So do you think that they really should get involved with social media as it pertains to being in contact with their constituents and people in the community?
Right. You know, it depends who you are. If you're the current president, maybe not. Can I talk politics?
Well, you know what? It's your show. I'm just here for the entertainment.
Well, listen, I liked the idea of shaking up government because I think government is too comfortable sometimes. But shaking it up and turning it upside down are two different things. So social media can work, I think, but can also be a problem, especially in today's age with 24-hour news. And not only 24-hour news, but every one of us can be a newscaster. I mean, I do a podcast. I do a Facebook Live component to it. I'm essentially a talk show host on that. And so who am I really that someone should listen to? I think that, you know, if kids grow up with critical thinking, they can discern what's real and what's not.
Okay. So now thinking about those different sources, you know, we've got something back here behind us with all the great social media stuff back there. Those icons are everywhere. You know, is there a particular platform that you think is better for governments and maybe candidates and politicians to use over another? What are your thoughts around that?
You can look at LinkedIn if you're going after business. If you need to speak to your business community, that's a great place. Twitter, I'm just finding that just going out of favor at this point, it seems. Facebook is another good place. I think government, for example, our city government, we videotape council meetings, for example. But I think we should live stream those. I think the comments within a live stream can be asked at that council meeting.
Okay, well, no, that's really interesting. I'm thinking about that from the council meeting perspective. That's definitely a different way of thinking about those. When you think about the current people that are out there and governments and some of the politicians, you know, some of them feel that being able to use social media to contact people and to get their messaging out is more of a direct method, and it's not, you know, something that's watered down or filtered. Do you think that's the best way for them to get their messages out, by doing it that way?
You know, it's not a bad thing. I know a lot of politicians and even city governments and state governments want to control the messaging. You might want to take a moment just to think about it before you do that if you're a politician, right? But it does provide transparency. It does provide some authenticity. So it does give that immediate feeling that you're out there and you're reaching and there's no filter between. You just have to be smart enough, I think, to understand how to use it.
Yeah, and I think that we definitely have, you know, some thinking that we need to do as a society around that. Because when you think about, you know, implications and consequences of this as it pertains to politics and city government, what are some of the things that you think could be impacted by what people are putting on social media?
I think youth, young people, get all their information from social media, everything. Whether they're on Discord in a chat room or whether they're on a game using Twitch. I mean, you could get your information from anywhere. Just know where you're getting your info from.
Okay, now you mentioned young people, right? That's one of the things that you mentioned. So we've got a whole generation of people that are coming up and they're going to be voting and helping to make some changes here in this country.
Yeah.
How do you think this social media boom and having these candidates and these potential politicians and these government entities, how do you think that their messaging that's going out is going to impact either positively, negatively, or a neutral way, the way that these people think about how they're putting people into these positions?
Advertising, it's the same thing as social media, right? Advertising, people are spending billions of dollars. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that games are made a certain way. Even that influences things. these young kids are getting their information from a variety of places, interaction with other people their age, online, so it's not just in social media, it could be in what's called Discord or chat rooms and such. So it can and it will affect. Social media, more than 24-hour news will do that in the upcoming election.
So where do you see government as far as their usage of social media going forward?
Government is slow. Government, and it's not a bad thing when it's slow. You don't want government acting too fast on some things, but government is slow. But I think that city government or any government should embrace social media.
Why?
Because this is the way you communicate one-on-one, Alyssa. This is the way I can message you, and I can talk to you, I can get information. Anything that I think breaks that, that mold of city government is not helping its citizens. That can be one-on-one, that can be transparent. Any way that government can do that, I think, is an investment for them.
So you're seeing the city government interaction on social media as not just something where they can engage, but they can also inform? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, they need to inform. That's the first thing. But engaging, I think, is really good too. I think that engagement actually gives that authenticity.
Okay, so Rico, another question for you. You know, there are so many outlets on social media. If a government official or a politician or a candidate that's running for election is attacked by somebody on social media, defamed or, you know, maligned some kind of way,
right?
What should they do? How should they handle that? And what's your experience in seeing any of that?
Interesting. There's some places you just need to leave alone and not go. Now, if someone's out there and they're doing bad talk and they're incorrect facts, and it's on Twitter or Facebook, some better known places, and it's going to be shared, I think the better way of doing it is to come out and to provide the correct facts, but not to attack whoever's doing it. So if you're going to answer someone's falsehoods on social media, or if you're going to respond to issues, maybe it's not falsehood, it's just a difference of opinion, it's okay to do that on social media. You just don't want it to get out of control.
What do you mean? And what do you mean by out of control?
Right, so you don't want to keep responding. You could tit for tat on that. You could go back and forth, and if it's not a productive thing, at some point you just have to let it go.
And how do people deal with damage control on social media? Now, I know that you said you're mindful about kind of how you think about how you respond, but what if the damage is already done? What if something's really happening and people are really putting that information out there, and you know, the city has to really deal with that?
It depends on what it is. We're talking theoretical to a degree, right? The funny part about that is people get that wrong, right? You could have a dozen different people, dozen different opinions, right?
Right.
And there'll be good and bad, for and against, in the middle of the road, and people that don't care.
So people use social media in so many different ways, as we've already been discussing here, right? Now, what's your suggestion? If, say, for instance, I'm city official and somebody just keeps coming at me regularly on one of the platforms, how do you think the city and or the person needs to deal with that? Because, you know, once that's out there, it's out there.
You're right, it is, and it doesn't go away, and it can be searchable. And that's a tough thing. You know, if someone's adamant and they have a vendetta against a city council person or a city government person, and they're coming at you on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or wherever they want, Twitter, you can't delete those. That's the dark side of social media. There will be people out there, like in anything, right? They're abusing the system that's out there. And that's bad for everyone, because when that happens, and if that happens too often, then you get calls for censorship. Well, they should be knocked off there. They shouldn't be allowed. They should be banned off there. Who decides that? I don't want government to decide that. So that's a tough one. I'm not sure what the answer to that would be. I don't think there's a clean answer to that. It has to be addressed on an individual basis and what that is.
That's a good way of thinking about that. You know, and another thought is, you know, we have these elections that come up, we have these debates that happen, and we all sit there at the television with popcorn in hand, kind of waiting for the knockout punch. What do you see as far as social media? How do you see that playing into the debate process, and, you know, people who are either running for an office or already in office, using it as a platform to debate? using it as a platform, expecting a response.
You know, that's not a bad thing. There's legitimate things to be done there. I've seen strings of Facebook comments that are good, smart, legitimate people. In fact, diversity promotes creativity, and to be able to have that open, that open discussion is good. You just have to contend sometimes with the bad apples that come in there.
Right.
And some of these systems, social platforms do give you some tools to sort of work on that a little bit.
Now, are there any particular platforms that you don't necessarily think are the right platforms for government entities, whether nationally, locally, statewide?
It depends on who they want to reach. But yeah, the major, I think you have it up here. I mean, the major ones are the places city government needs to be.
Okay. Well, Rico, thank you so much for coming on Momentum and having a conversation with me about this. This has been really insightful, and I appreciate all your time today. Everything that you said is just kind of spot on, and I just want to thank you again on behalf of all of our viewers.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate being out here with you. Thanks.